The wind howled through the cemetery, rustling the dried leaves scattered across the ground. Keanu Reeves stood still, his hands tucked into the pockets of his long coat, staring at the gravestone in front of him. The name engraved on the marble sent a familiar ache through his chest, Sophia Reeves. It had been a year since she passed, yet the pain remained as raw as the day he lost her. She had been the light in his otherwise shadowed existence, the only person who had truly understood him. Now, he was left with nothing but echoes of her laughter and memories that haunted his lonely nights. A faint rustling behind him broke his thoughts. He turned slightly and saw a small figure sitting on the bench nearby. A little girl, no older than 8, wrapped in an oversized jacket that swallowed her tiny frame. She looked up at him with weary eyes, her face smeared with date, her blonde curls tangled from the cold wind. Something about her gaze held him in place. "You okay?" he asked, his voice rough from lack of use. The girl hesitated before giving a small nod. "I'm fine." He frowned. She was clearly not fine, alone in the cemetery, looking as if she hadn't eaten in days. He crouched down to her level. "Where are your parents?" She bit her lip, avoiding his gaze. "Gone." The single word hit him harder than he expected. He knew loss. He knew what it felt like to have your world ripped apart, leaving you gasping for air in the wreckage. "Do you have anywhere to go?" he asked. She shook her head. "Miss Sophia used to help me." The name was a dagger to his chest. "You knew my wife." The girl nodded. "She used to bring me food. Let me stay with her sometimes. She said she'd always look out for me." A lump formed in Keanu's throat. Sophia had always been this way, caring, selfless, giving to those in need without ever telling him. And now, because of her kindness, this little girl was sitting in front of him with nowhere to go. A part of him wanted to walk away, to tell himself this wasn't his problem. He had done his duty. He had asked if she needed help. He could easily pull out his wallet and give her money. But then, another part of him, the part that still felt the dull ache of losing Sophia, knew that walking away would mean betraying everything she had stood for. Taking a deep breath, he adjusted his coat against the wind and stood up. "Come on," he said, offering his hand. "Let's get you something to eat." The girl blinked up at him, wary at first, but after a moment, she hesitantly reached out. Her small fingers slipped into his, fragile and cold. The touch startled him. He wasn't used to this. He wasn't used to responsibility outside of business transactions. But as he led her toward the entrance of the cemetery, something shifted inside him. The streets of Brooklyn were bustling despite the overcast sky. People rushed past them, lost in their own worlds. Keanu wasn't sure where to take her at first, but then he spotted a familiar diner on 5th Avenue, one that Sophia used to love. It was a small, cozy place with a warm atmosphere and an owner who had always been kind. As they stepped inside, the heat from the heaters immediately wrapped around them, a welcome contrast of cold outside. A middle-aged woman with salt and pepper hair glanced up from the counter. When she saw Keanu, she did a double-take. Well, if it isn't Mr. Reeves," she said, a smile creeping onto her face. "Haven't seen you in here since." Her smile faltered slightly. She was thinking about Sophia. Keanu cleared his throat. "Yeah, it's been a while." He gestured toward the little girl. She could use something warm to eat. Maggie's eyes softened as she looked at the girl. "Of course. Honey, take a seat. I'll bring you both something." They slid into a booth near the window, the soft hum of conversation and clinking dishes filling the air. The girl sat quietly, her small hands resting in her lap, looking as if she expected him to change his mind and leave her at any moment. Keanu wasn't sure how to make her feel at ease, so he simply asked, "What do you like to eat?" She hesitated. "Miss Sophia used to get me pancakes." Keanu felt something tighten in his chest. He hadn't known that. He hadn't known his wife had been bringing this girl here, sitting in these very booths, ordering her pancakes. How much of Sophia's life had he missed while he had been too busy chasing success? Maggie returned a few minutes later with a steaming plate of pancakes for the girl and a coffee for Keanu. As the little girl took her first bite, her eyes lit up with a flicker of happiness. It was the first time he had seen her smile, and for some reason, that small moment made something inside him ache. They ate in silence for a while, the sound of her fork scraping against the plate the only noise between them. When she was halfway through, She looked up at him. "Are you Miss Sophia's husband?" Keanu nodded slowly. "Yeah, I was." She swallowed, her expression unreadable. "She told me you were always busy." There was no malice in her tone, just an innocent observation, but it hit Keanu like a punch to the gut. He set his coffee down, staring at the table. "Yeah," he admitted, "I was." She poked at the remaining pancake on her plate, her brows furrowing. "She said you were nice, just not good at showing it." A breathy chuckle escaped him, though there was no humor in it. Sounds like something she'd say. The girl finished her pancakes and pushed the plate away. "I miss her," she said softly. Keanu looked at her, really looked at her this time. This wasn't just some lost child. She had been a part of Sophia's life, a part he had never taken the time to see. He had spent the last year grieving in silence, drowning himself in work, pretending that moving forward meant forgetting. But now, sitting across from this little girl who had known his wife in ways he hadn't, he realized how wrong he had been. He reached for his wallet again, pulling out more cash, but then he stopped himself. Sophia hadn't just thrown money at problems. She had given people her time, her heart. Maybe, just maybe, that's what this girl needed now. Keanu exhaled and made a decision that surprised even himself. "Come on, kid," he said, standing up and offering his hand once more. "Let's figure this out." The girl hesitated for only a moment before slipping her hand into his again. And as they stepped out into the cold, Keanu knew one thing for certain. Sophia had left him something far more valuable than money or success. She had left him a second chance. And for the first time in a long time, he was ready to take it. As they walked, he felt the weight of the past slowly lift, replaced by something unfamiliar, hope. Maybe this was just the beginning. Maybe, in helping this child, he would finally find a way to heal. And maybe, just maybe, he could learn how to be the man Sophia had always believed he could be. A new path had opened before him, and he was ready to walk it.